Good morning, everyone, and welcome. We are coming to you live from outside of the famous Murdoch and Nelson courthouse, where a trial 17 years in the making is about to commence, as former Initech employee Milton Waddams has been charged with the mysterious incident that led to Initech burning down back in 1999. Waddams is said to be a former disgruntled employee who basically fell through the cracks, which some say is what may have given him the motive to burn down his place of employment, after stealing what we're being told is hundreds of thousands of dollars. We now go live into the courthouse.
All rise for the Honorable Judge Richardson. Please be seated. We are here today because of the technology company Initech versus one Milton Waddams. Mr. Waddams, you're being charged with one count of premeditated arson and one count of cyber theft with a sum total equaling exactly $305,326.13. The defense and prosecution may begin their opening statements.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, my client, Mr. Milton Waddams, was the victim of a megacorporation that neglected in some cases his basic rights, including an adequate working space, forcing him to take part in tasks that were not within his job description, and most shockingly, being laid off without even being informed, then having his paycheck cut for no other reason than to fix the problem of never being informed of his termination in the first place. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, whether Initech is in fact found neglectful or not is yet to be proven. But even if it is found true, does that mean that Mr. Waddams has the right to steal and burn down his place of employment? Of course not. And while through the course of this trial, you will most likely hear Mr. Waddams' sob story. Do not forget the real victim here is Initech, a software company that was robbed and burned down for no other reason than because its employee just had a bad day.
The defense will now begin with its first witness or the evidence it wishes to submit.
Yes, we'll begin by calling forth one of the people we contacted that not only acknowledged Mr. Waddams' existence, but also has agreed to speak about what he witnessed in regards to Mr. Waddams and his working environment. The defense calls Mr. Kotaro Arashi. So, Mr. Arashi, you said you used to work with Mr. Waddams all those years ago. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. I used to work for Initech, but then it burned down and I moved to Intertrode.
And what was your relation to Mr. Waddams?
I was one of his co-workers.
Now tell me about some of the things you witnessed in regards to Mr. Waddams and his working environment.
Well, from what I remember, Milton was often seen as a bit of a strange man, always mumbling and even seeming to carry on conversations with himself. Although as time went on, I believe it had a lot to do with the fact that Mr. Lomberg was always moving his desk around, using his cubicle as extra storage space. And now that I think about it, I remember on the day of the fire, hearing that Milton was down in the basement killing roaches, which I thought was very strange.
And were you able to physically witness the conditions Mr. Waddams was forced to work in?
Oh, plenty of times. I remember one time Mr. Lomberg assigned Milton workspace as an actual storage unit, and the vultures that we worked with made a point of taking everything, including, I guess, some stapler that Milton prized over, but I never physically saw him the day that he was forced to work in the basement. Again, it was our last day there. If I may, off the record, I'd like to say I was actually told Milton had died, so when you said he was on trial, I had a hard time believing it and was shocked to see him again.
Is there anything else that you feel you should enlighten the court about? Any other possible first-hand accounts or anything else that you witnessed while working with Mr. Waddams?
No, not that I can think of.
Then the defense has no further questions at this time, Your Honor. The prosecution would like to question the witness.
Proceed.
So, Mr. Arashi, tell me, in your time at Initech, did you ever witness or hear Mr. Waddams make any statements that may have possibly hinted at what could have been possible theft or arson? Objection, Your Honor.
Overruled. Answer the question, Mr. Arashi.
No, I cannot say that I did. Milton was always very how do you say, squirrely. And when he did say something, it was either not taken very seriously, or no one seemed to be paying attention to what he was saying. Now, you stated that there were multiple times when you saw the workspace Mr. Waddams was in. At any point, did he appear to take any kind of objection to his working conditions? Well, that was not my job to know that. Something like that would have been taken up with HR, but to answer your question, no. He never did appear to be overly concerned, I guess. Wouldn't that suggest that Mr. Waddams was merely using his working conditions as an excuse? Objection!
Sustained. Change the question.
Very well. Let me ask this instead. Wouldn't you think that Mr. Waddams was bothered by his working conditions, that he would have left the company a lot sooner? I had not thought of that, but I see your point. That is quite strange. The prosecution has no further questions now.
Does the defense or prosecution have any other further witness or evidence it wishes to present?
We do, Your Honor. We would like to submit this document stating that a Mr. Bob Seidel and a Mr. Bob Porter were in fact involved in discontinuing Mr. Waddams' paycheck, along with not informing Mr. Waddams or anyone else of its discontinuation. Objection. On the grounds of not being informed of this evidence before trial. Permission to approach the bench.
Granted.
Well, I'm telling you, man.
After reviewing this document, the defense and prosecution have agreed that the next witness to call to the stand will be the representative of Initech that is present here today. But this will be commencing after a short recess.
And there you have it. This has been day one coverage of the trial of Milton Waddams, where we have learned that the former Initech employee was revealed to have worked in inadequate working conditions, and now we have been informed that two higher-ups from the company may have been involved in discontinuing Mr. Waddams' pay without the former employee ever being made aware. We hope you'll continue to stay tuned into this as this trial unfolds.